Medstar Laboratory is one of the oldest and largest independent clinical laboratories in the state of Illinois. Medstar Laboratory is a minority-owned corporation that provides state-of-the-art clinical laboratory service since 1974. We currently service over 800 medical facilities, including hospitals, nursing homes, assisted living facilities.
Medstar's Toxicology Division, Soft Landing Labs, is a leader in drug testing and specializes in servicing behavioral health centers. We pride ourselves in diversity, where 33% of the lab is owned by a minority woman and 80% of the workforce is women. Medstar Laboratory is known for its accuracy, proficiency, customer service, and dependable delivery of quality services by qualified professionals.
We provide personalized service around the clock 24 hours a day with professionalism at its best. Thanks to you, we are growing and offering a comprehensive range of diagnostic testing. Medstar, your partner for progress and longevity.
Welcome to Global Americans TV's Face to Face with Dr. VGP. Today, our guest is Donald Dew, the President and Chief Executive Officer of Habilitative Systems, Inc., a vital Chicago-based behavioral health and human services organization providing programs and services for thousands of children and families with special needs. Chief, since you took over in 1990, as the Habilitative Systems Inc. CEO, your budget has increased from $6 million to nearly $10.5 million in 2021. This signals a significant increase in services to the Chicago area residents, especially during this adverse COVID pandemic which we are going through.
Yes. Dr. Vijay, thank you so much for the opportunity and privilege to be on your show today. I truly appreciate this opportunity. It is significant. It's also an indication of just being responsive to intense and very critical community need. Throughout our history for over 40 years, we have endeavored to be just that, responsive to community need. Infant mortality, looking at the plight of persons with disabilities, children who have been abused and neglected, and child welfare, looking at the violence and trauma experienced by our youth in the juvenile justice system. We have always tried to be responsive. And of course, now that the pandemic has hit, we've joined forces with our elected officials and our funding agencies to ensure that folks get tested, folks are vaccinated, and in fact continue to receive the comprehensive services that are so needed when folks are experiencing what is typically understood as social determinants of health.
Today, Donald Dew, you're a household name in the city of Chicago. Tell us about your early childhood and your bringing up days. You're a master of many multifaceted talents. You're also an avid photographer, I'm told, a good writer, becoming a spiritual guru now. Once upon a time, we're in the janitorial field when I saw the polished floors of the Mike's Recovery Home. You take pride in what you do. Yeah. Give us a little insight into your early childhood and education.
Well, again, thank you so much. I was born and raised on the west side of Chicago. I'm the son of Willie Maurice Dew and Enola Anna Dominique Dew. My dad came from Mississippi and my mother came from Louisiana.
Wow.
So they were a part of that great migration of folks from the South seeking a better way and standard of living. I'm so glad that they chose to come to Chicago. I often say that my mother was the first strategic planner I met. Had she not determined that we also needed to go to the schools like St. Malachy and Hell's Franciscan and on to Lewis University and then to Jane Addams College of Social Work, she was big on education and she knew that education was a ticket for liberation. She also knew that civic engagement was critical. That's why she was so involved with persons like Congressman Danny Davis to actually found the Miles Square Health Center over 50
Wow.
years ago. So I grew up around folks like that, strong work ethic, community-minded, and for me it was a simple choice to want to give back to the community. When I first started my professional career, I was a psychotherapist specializing in cognitive behavioral therapy interventions and doing a lot of individual, family, and group work, and also specializing in stress management, and picked up techniques around transcendental meditation and studied the teachings of Maharishi Yogi.
Wow, interesting,
and,
very interesting.
Sadhguru, and was very impressed with that. Of course, I've also studied a lot about the history of African Americans in this country, how the Middle Passage affected us traumatically for 400 years, studying about the trauma that many of us have experienced in this country, looking at the struggles and the triumphs and the resiliency of African American people in this country, and specifically those who came to Chicago. We did a video documentary called Heading West that talked about how many folks came from the South to the west side of Chicago. And that's a very powerful story.
Great. Especially it's so good to know that your mother was one of the co-founders of Miles Square Health Centers.
Yes.
It's one of the first federally qualified healthcare centers in the state of Illinois.
Yes.
Today we have over 230 FQHCs thanks to Congressman Danny K. Davis,
Yes.
who's known as the father of community healthcare
Yes.
in United States. Habilitative Systems Inc. is today a nationally recognized human services agency that uses a continuum of care approach to provide much needed programs to the underserved populations and people living with an array of health and human services needs. Headquartered here in the west side of Chicago, Habilitative Systems Inc. has offered supportive programs to Chicago's most disadvantaged and vulnerable residents for over 40 years, like you just said, and provides services to over 7,000 people annually in the North Lawndale, West Garfield, Austin, and Inglewood communities in Chicago. Chief Donald Dew, what would you say is the most significant achievement, if you say one single achievement of Habilitative Systems Institute today is?
That's real difficult. But I think that one of the most significant achievements has been the creation of affordable housing for senior citizens. We constructed 2 60-unit facilities and also did another 5 facilities for people with disabilities valued at in excess of $20 million. That's significant because a society has chosen to be really defined by its treatment of its elders and its children. So HSI historically has always taken care of the children and our elders. And to be able to build facilities that in many cases represents the best living standard our seniors have ever had in their lifetime has been very significant for me and very gratifying.
Absolutely. Today, Habilitative Systems Inc. has over 15 offices for behavioral health care outpatients. Could you tell us what type of services you provide
Yes.
and the Tyrage Center?
Absolutely. In our main facility, we have our sheltered work center, day center for persons with disabilities, and you'll see some photos of that. So these persons would otherwise be institutionalized and not able to benefit from community integrated care. So we provide those services. We provide residential services for persons with mental illness in terms of supported residential housing. These are persons who would normally have to reside in nursing homes, but in 5 different facilities, we provide them with supervised residential care. We also, in another location, provide a recovery home for women who have been victims of domestic violence and are struggling with alcoholism and substance use disorder. So we have been able to provide that service for over 20 years as well. In another location, we are operating the Westside Community Triage and Wellness Center. This facility is designed to operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all year
interesting.
long, and really divert persons from the unnecessary emergency room visits, unnecessary visits to Cook County Jail, and or unnecessary psychiatric hospitalization. So we have case managers and therapists and LPNs on staff who provide comprehensive assessments and provide opportunities for assessments around trauma.
We are here at Mike's Recovery Home. You've done an outstanding job in converting a beaten down basement into one of a 30-bed halfway house. We just saw the kitchen area, and this is one of the ideal rooms in this halfway house. Please go ahead and tell us, how did this happen and what's the future?
Yes. Well, it started out as a 100-bed shelter, overnight shelter for the homeless. And we had 60 beds for men and 40 beds for women. And we realized that most of the people who were homeless on the streets during the mid-'80s were men, single men, because women who had homeless concerns also had children. So they went into shelters for women and children. We were only able to accommodate single individuals. So we then converted to an all-male shelter. And then we realized that we needed to deal with the causes of homelessness, not just band-aid the situation and provide them with a meal and a bed, that we really needed to get to the root cause of the homelessness. So we then began to provide more treatment services for alcoholism and substance use disorder and deal with the trauma and the exposure to violence and of course poverty that many of them had experienced. And many of the persons who are referred to this particular facility have in fact been referred directly from Cook County Jail. So in many cases, for over 60% of the people that we serve here, this is their first stop back in the community after they've been incarcerated and separated from their family and children for years.
You brought about a very important aspect about homelessness and how you're giving a wholesome approach to bringing the behavioral health care and also the recovery program, yes, the aftercare, especially the Second Chance Act, where you're getting the people from the Illinois Department of Corrections and integrating them into society. Yes. I mean, this is something which should be known, because you are providing something beyond the homeless shelter with a whole paradigm of services.
Yes, it is so critical,
Absolutely critical today.
It's so critical. Folks always talk about people falling through the cracks. Well, people don't fall through cracks.
Absolutely.
They fall into another system.
Exactly.
Okay, so
exactly. So well said.
So if they're not in a facility receiving services, then they fall into the homeless realms, and then they end up in the emergency room or institutionalized or incarcerated, but they fall through the crack into another system.
In times of this COVID pandemic, which is a worldwide phenomenon,
yes,
with unprecedented humanitarian crisis, these type of institutions like Habilitative Systems, Inc., and what you're doing today is so important. And especially the way you're dealing with this most disadvantaged and vulnerable populations, like you just explained to us. I mean, we need to spread the word and to see how the community can engage in you in a meaningful, purposeful, supportive manner.
Absolutely. And we are part of the community. Years ago, we had the opportunity to move our corporate offices downtown, but we said, no, we wanted to stay in the community. So, HSI has 15 different locations.
Wow.
On the west side and also in Inglewood. And we wanted to be neighbors, good neighbors. We wanted to be an extension, if you will, of the nuclear family. So many times the people that we end up serving are people that we knew and know. I mean, I was born and raised right here on the west side of Chicago. So
Homegrown
it's
boy
it's
in
homegrown,
West Side. Yeah. And I think we
absolutely.
should take an opportunity, Chief, to go and visit one of your facilities, right? Let's go on Madison, the triage facility.
Yes.
Let's go there and take a look and see what's going on there.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
That's, the triage center has been built with the grant which you got from the Cook County Health
Yes.
Services, 4.5 million multi-year grant,
Yes.
which helped develop that center.
Yes, enough cannot be said about our relationship with Cook County Health. They actually provided that funding for us during a very difficult time when the state had not passed the budget under Governor Rauner for nearly 3 years. And a lot of agencies were shutting down and closing. But Cook County came through and provided that support not only to HSI as an individual organization, but also to another West Side agency, Bobby Wright Comprehensive Behavioral Health Center, to support us and get us through that time.
You brought a very interesting perspective. When the state had the Republican governor, Rauner, a lot of the welfare programs were reduced or minimized and also with the federal government under Trump. And now with the new Biden-Harris administration and Governor Pritzker's, the Illinois governor, how do you see the sea change of funds flowing to not-for-profits and for much-needed human services?
And that's a very interesting perspective, because let me just be quick to point out that HSI's early growth and development was actually under a Republican governor.
Oh, good. Yeah, Jim Edgar.
Jim Edgar.
Yeah, I heard that a lot about
Yeah,
Governor Jim
yeah,
Edgar. He was
yeah.
really a pilot and
Right,
for not-for-profit
Yeah.
organizations across the
Right,
communities.
Right. And also James Thompson. I mean,
Yes.
so, we've done well under certain Republican governors. That particular governor, Rauner, was not as helpful to us. And I would often have conversations with the governor about that, and would simply say, Governor, you want to be careful about putting people in hardship who are trying to help people out of hardship. And that's what was happening with many community-based organizations. And of course, now with the new administration in D.C. and also the new administration in Illinois state capital, Governor Pritzker and President Biden, we're very, very hopeful with their new policies, domestic policies, that we will be able to continue to respond very responsibly and, of course, effectively to community need.
Right. One of the things we recently heard, Chief Dew, was that you received a large allocation of 3.7 million in 2020 for the census initiative. Could
Yes.
you expand on that, and how did that come about, and what work did you do last
Yes.
year?
That was a very significant achievement on multiple levels. First of all, we actually ran that program over 2 years, and the allocation ended up exceeding over $4 million. And we were asked by the state Illinois Department of Human Services to form this coalition of organizations. So we ended up having 30 plus organizations in
Wow,
this coalition.
that's big.
And we formed the Counting on Chicago Coalition 2020. And it was significant because it was all about serving 8 community areas on the south side of Chicago, another 5 community areas on the west side of Chicago, and really identifying persons who are hard to count. And of course, being effectively counted in the census really determines, your share of federal dollars. So we wanted to make sure that we got our fair share of that funding. So we wanted people to respond. And, of course, during this time, we were hit with COVID-19 in terms of the pandemic. We were also hit with civil unrest after George Floyd's assassination. And, it was very, very difficult. And yet, we continued to pave the pavement in our communities to make sure that people were counted. And so we were able to, at one point in time, with these 30 plus organizations, get over 45,000 people basic human needs services. and referrals.
Fantastic. It's
You know,
fantastic.
And these
Fantastic.
were
A
persons who were,
remarkable achievement.
thank you so
And
much.
and I think that census initiative, people need to know, is so important and
Yes.
critical to delivery of health and human services,
Yes.
especially for the vulnerable populations.
Absolutely.
And I wish we could have had a better impetus for census in the state of Illinois, because as you know, we lost one of the congressional districts from
Yes.
18, we are now down to 17, because much of the people didn't come out and get themselves counted in the census.
And it was also due to our loss of population.
Okay.
You know, we certainly have lost some of the population in the city of Chicago and throughout the state of Illinois. So it was going to be very, very difficult to, you know, get folk counted who were just not there.
Correct.
And-
That's a good point.
you know,
That's a very good point,
that
maybe.
was-
Yeah,
that was
exactly.
another critical piece. The other point that I want to really mention, specifically as it relates to the south and west sides of Chicago, is that persons who are currently incarcerated cannot be counted from their communities of origin.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't realize that.
Yes.
Okay.
Very, very critical, and it's a fight that legislators like several folk over the years have fought for legislatively, and we want to make sure that we can turn that around for the next census count. We don't want
That makes a big difference to
Oh,
the whole
it's a
census count. A huge difference.
Yes, yes.
Is that something similar to what's going on in Congress now with the voting rights bill, with John Lewis? President Biden wants to call it the John Lewis Right to Vote Act.
It's related. It's related. And again, we've witnessed across the country attempts at voter suppression. And, you know, it's critical that folks are given the opportunity to vote and not be prohibited and inhibited from voting. In fact, I've used this acronym VOTE to stand for voting is an opportunity to deal with the traumatic experience in the country.
Right.
Voting is an opportunity to deal with the traumatic experience.
Wow.
Vote. When we vote, we are able to neutralize some of that trauma. When we vote, we're able to get equal opportunity. When we vote, we have greater representation. When we vote, we have more programmatic input. When we vote, we have fair housing. When we vote, we have fair employment, and on and on and on.
So
civic
well
engagement.
said, Donald Duke. Talking of workforce development and the Habilitative Systems, Inc., during your leadership tenure of the last 30 years, you have had a significant impact in this space of workforce development. Could you enlighten our viewers on all the different initiatives you have done to put people mentally challenged and people with disabilities to work?
Thank you so much for this opportunity. We really appreciate it. Since 1978, Habilitative Systems has been focusing efforts on special populations that include people with developmental disabilities, mental illness, substance use disorders, children at risk, as well as senior citizens. In this particular space, we've had a focus on workforce development. And we have had persons who were previously residing in state institutions who have been given the opportunity to work here in the community and live in the community. We also have scores of individuals who have never had to go to an institution because they're living with their parents and natural caregivers, and we provide them support through these day services. So over the years, we have done a number of different contracts that have employed thousands of people with disabilities and cognitive impairments. We've done pillow manufacturing for the airline industry that included Eastern Airlines, and when they were in business, United Airlines, and Amtrak passenger line.
Wow.
We were shipping pillows all over the country. Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles. Thousands of cases of pillows were going right through the loading dock onto the vans for shipment and on. So we also have assembled telephones.
Wow, from Pillow Talk initiative to telephones. Yeah, great.
And it was interesting because when the Democratic National Convention was here back in 1996, we actually assembled over 8,000 telephones right here on this workshop floor.
Fantastic.
Red, white, and blue telephones that had the Ameritech emblem and the DNC emblem, and the city of Chicago
I
emblem.
remember that, 1996, I guess?
1996,
Yes,
right here.
yes, yes.
So all those phones are now commemorative phones, and I've got a replica of it upstairs I can show you a little bit later. But we've done that. We also, out of this location, have done significant janitorial training. We were able to form a service master franchise called AbleServe, and in fact, we're doing janitorial services for Rush University Medical Center,
Wow.
the Jesse Brown Veterans Administration Center, the Austin Bank of Chicago. So we had a number of different janitorial contracts operating as well over a period of years. So, we have been trying to create these employment opportunities to keep people maintained in the community. And Dr. Vijay, let me also say this. I've been here since 1984. And there were persons that I screened in disability institutions at the state level who came here back in 1984 who are still here, who have never had to go back to an institution.
Wow.
And living in facilities that we constructed. We constructed 5 facilities for people with disabilities right here on the west side of Chicago. So it's a beautiful thing to be able to see that type of life enrichment and qualitative services.
I think that's a great continuum of care services.
Yes.
Habilitative Systems Institute not only provides the behavioral care outpatient, and to have this component of vocational training, which has been also recognized by the Commission of Accreditation of Rehabilitation Facilities as a national rating system. I mean, it's something really awesome that you in the West Side is able to do this. What is happening now? Tell us, what are the clients doing right now?
We're at the end of our day right now, and of course, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we are still engaged in social distancing, and we are only maybe operating at about 25% capacity at this time. Normally, you would see over 80 persons with varying levels of disabilities working on this floor, doing assembly, packaging, sorting, and in fact, providing opportunities again for folks with disabilities to get work-related experience. From here, they move into supported employment, and as they continue to improve, they move into competitive employment. Our next goal is to conform, or rather transform, this particular site into what we call an integrated work setting, so that people with disabilities and people without disabilities are in fact working together.
I really love the idea how you're saying that you're going to transition from supportive employment to competitive employment, and then making an integrated workplace. Are you open to those companies who are now looking to collaborate with Habilitative Systems Inc. to teach the mentally challenged and developmentally disabled? Are you open to such partnerships of entering coming up in this year during post-COVID?
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, historically speaking, years ago we were able to receive a grant from the U.S. Department of Education, and we operated a McJobs program with the McDonald's Corporation.
Excellent.
And we were actually training people with disabilities in the food service industry. And once they finished their training here, they were able to get jobs at McDonald's. So yes, I mean, corporations have always been very supportive of our efforts here, and we're looking forward to more opportunities.
The comprehensive habilitative systems. Let's take a walk and look at your senior facilities. You raised a great $20 million from the Housing and Urban Development to build these 2 senior facilities and recovery homes. So let's take a look at that, Chief Donald Dew.
Absolutely.
You're a man of action. On a personal note, how do you keep yourself active? I know you have a very charming wife, and what do you do in your spare time, if at all you have any time? I know you're so tied up with community activities, leadership, leading so many initiatives in Chicago, traveling around the country. Also, you are on the governing council of the Commission of Accredited Rehabilitation Facilities, which is a very big honor to serve on that, which is a nationwide accreditation body for rehabilitation facilities, right?
Yes. First of all, on a personal level, I have to thank my wife, Kimberly. She helps to maintain some balance and make sure that we get that quality time. If it was not for her, I'd probably be working 90% of the time.
I believe you.
Of course,
I believe you.
I
The
make
need is there.
Yes, but I make sure that I spend quality time with her and quality time with our family, and we enjoy that time together. And of course, when we look at policy and when I look at the opportunity to serve as a trustee of the Commission on the Commission on Accreditation and Rehabilitation Facilities, it's a tremendous honor and privilege because, we're dealing with quality care. We're talking about policies that impact millions of people with disabling conditions across the country and throughout the world. CARF expanded, across the waters, and we realize that we've got to continue to emphasize the importance of providing this level of enriched care to persons with significant disabling conditions.
Could you just sum up for us what are the challenges that organizations like you face during the COVID pandemic and beyond?
Sustainability, funding ebbs and flows. And we have been really trying to ensure that we develop a social entrepreneurial approach. That is why at one point in time, we formed a janitorial franchise with ServiceMaster, trying to do that. The housing initiative has been part of our social entrepreneurial strategy to create greater sustainability for our organization. Also engaging in integrated healthcare, and of course now opening up the door for significant involvement in terms of contact tracing and healthcare transformation within the state of Illinois. It's really now all about being able to sustain ourselves with programs that ultimately are essential to the community.
That's wonderful to hear that. Now, you have led a very successful model of social entrepreneurship in the not-for-profit arena. Who have been your partners you would like to call out at this time who have helped you in different stages of development over the last 31 years that you have been leading this organization?
Well, first and foremost, it's been our funding sources, our major funding sources, such as the Illinois Department of Human Services, Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, Healthcare Family Services, Department of Rehab Services, Department of Public Health, Cook County Health and Hospital Systems, and a number of corporate partners such as Ameritech, AT&T, ComEd, you name it. I mean, we've had many, many corporate partners over the years.
I think People's Gas had a significant role to play in the developing the basement into Mike's Recovery Home.
Absolutely,
and the parking lot.
Yes,
and
new lighting, paved the parking lot. We have just had so many over
So
the years.
Habilitative Systems thinks is a true model of public-private partnership in action.
Yes.
Tell us something about the Community-Based Research Institute, which HSI is launched and working in the Inglewood neighborhood.
Yes. At that location, 6845 Southwestern is our Urban Behavioral Health Services Institute. One of the reasons why we named that location was because of a mentor and colleague of mine by the name of Dr. Carl Bell. When his organization, Community Mental Health Council, folded, some of those funding dollars were directed towards habilitative systems. Well, Dr. Bell was an avid researcher, community-based researcher, and my first exposure to research was through Dr. Carl Bell. Here at HSI, we have been doing community-based research with partners such as University of Illinois, the Urban Trauma Center. Dr. Karen Dixon has led our community-based research efforts there. We've done research around HIV/AIDS among elementary school aged children and making sure that they were protected against the HIV/AIDS epidemic years ago. We've done research around trauma-informed care. We've done research around restorative justice and its impact from a wraparound model and case management model and getting family members involved in care. So it is significant that we continue to engage in evidence-based practices and evidence-informed practices, systems that work and make a difference in our community.
Absolutely. Habilitative Systems Inc. has definitely made a difference in people's lives. And I'm sure the founder, Larry Bird, if he was alive today, would be astounded to see how you have expanded it. It started all, I think, 50 years ago with Clare House Church on 15th and Pulaski, when from there it's an offshoot, and you've grown it to be a very reputable national agency, a model agency for people. You have gone into diversification, not only in the workforce development for providing jobs and training for the disabled population and mentally challenged, but also you've gone into the housing foray, providing senior housing centers. And we're going to go now and have a look at the senior centers which you've developed and also the triad centers. There's so much going on today in the Habilitative Systems Inc. And thanks to Donald Dew, your leadership, I mean, is so infectious. Your staff are so hardworking,
Yes,
and the Thyroid Center on Madison Street sees over 100 people, I'm told, coming in 24 hours round the clock for much needed behavioral health services.
Yes.
Today, the Illinois state, the mental health, the national statistics for the state of Illinois says 20% of Illinois' population, 12 million population, suffer from a serious mental health disorder like bipolar disorder, schizophrenic. That's a startling statistic.
Yes, yes.
And so we need more institutions like you and to enhance your services and to, I think the community, the government, the private sector, all, because in 2030, the behavioral health and mental health is going to be the biggest challenge America is going to face.
Without a doubt, and you know, we've seen the suicide rate increasing as well, and of course we know that there's significant influence from the COVID-19 pandemic. We know that generational trauma has, you know, continued to have impact. Systemic and institutional racism has been there. I mean, these are all factors that are impacting upon the populations that we target, that we serve. And, you know, we want to be there for our folk and give them an opportunity to get up and out.
2030, where do you see Habilitative Systems Inc.?
Well, I've often
10 years
said,
from now. Go
well,
ahead.
I've often said that if it can be done on the west side of Chicago, it can be done anywhere in the world.
Fantastic.
So we might be over in India.
Yes, we would love to take you over there to, I'm the global ambassador for Rainbow Push Coalition, so it opens up to take Habilitative
wonderful.
Systems to several developing countries where they can replicate your whole model. So let's now go and see your senior citizens buildings and see the wonderful work you're doing in that area.
All right, thank you.
We are here in front of the Habilitative Systems Inc.'s first senior building, which has been built over 20 years ago. And it's a, how many units?
60 units.
It's a 60-unit building. It's been an initiative, a shining initiative of CEO Donald Dew.
Yes.
And we'd like to commend you on this, that you've been able to do the senior facility. And not only this, he has built a second senior building. How long ago was that built?
About 7 years ago.
7 years ago. And how many units is that?
It's 60 units also.
6 units. We'd like to say something about this senior building and the senior housing.
Absolutely. You know, what we've been doing at HSI is naming facilities that we build after persons who have made significant contributions to the west side of Chicago. So in this case, Lois McCoy was one of our founders back in 1978, member of Clare Christian United Methodist Church. She, in fact, mortgaged her home so that HSI could make payroll years ago. So it's been people like Lois McCoy and my mother, Enola Dew, who represent the souls of black folk here on the west side of Chicago.
I'm sure they don't make people like them anymore, Chief.
Oh no, we got a few more left.
You got-
we got a few more
good,
left.
good.
Yes,
Come,
indeed.
We'll walk over to the next
All
senior
righty.
center.
Sounds good.
We are here with the visionary Donald Dew, the Chief Executive Officer of HSI, right here on a sunny afternoon in Chicago. And this is the land which is also acquired by Habilitative Systems Inc. Perhaps, Chief Dew, what do you plan to utilize this land for? I mean, there are several options.
Yes.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And this land is very, very important because it's sitting right between two of our senior facilities.
Wow.
And it's also directly adjacent to our main facility, which has a comprehensive array of health and human services. So we've been thinking about a development here for veterans. We certainly thought about a healthcare facility as well. We thought about opportunities for recreational facility for the community. And then, of course, we thought about a multi-purpose facility that would be a combination of housing as well as day activities and certainly a work opportunity and training center. So we're considering a lot of different options. We're looking at where the funding may be most supportive, as well as what fits, of course, with our program mix.
Let me give you all the support from the Global Eye and from the Global Strategic Alliance family for this initiative. We would love to partner up with you to make your vision a reality.
Thank
I know
you.
this would complete the paradigm of services which you're doing,
Yes.
either a veterans housing facility or even a federally qualified healthcare center,
Yes.
or even a multi-purpose community center.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
any one of that would fit it, and we want to work with you shoulder to shoulder with all from the Congressional
great.
Multi-Ethnic Advisory Task Force of Congressman Davis. We
Yes.
give you all the support, because
Thank you.
what you're doing in Chicago today, we cannot express our words unless one gets to come and actually see you in action, see your services, see your facility, the sparkling, clean halfway house. I never seen a halfway house. You know, I am part of a group, New Hope Community Service, which goes into all the food pantries,
Yes.
shelters, and halfway
Yes.
house on a daily basis with our physician team providing healthcare
Yes.
services. Without a doubt, I can say that yours is the most sanitized, clean, with sparkling flows. Salute you, sir.
Thank you. Thank
for
you
the
so
wonderful
much.
work you're doing.
Thank
God
you so much,
bless
Dr.
you.
Vijay.
We are here this afternoon in one of the crown jewel of the Habilitative Systems Inc., the senior building which is dedicated to Enala Dew. She is the mother of the visionary Donald Dew, the Chief Executive Officer. And Madam Enola Dew is a woman who has created history by being the co-founder of Mile Square Health Center, which is one of the first federally qualified healthcare centers in the state of Illinois and one of the earliest in the whole country. Madam Dew, we are here to pay respects for you for how you manifested yourself through your son. And I hope the Dew legacy continues for generations to come.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vijay. My mother migrated to Chicago from New Iberia, Louisiana. And I often say that she's the first person with a strategic plan that I knew, because she wanted to escape, of course, all of the trauma and terror of the Deep South and find a better way for herself and certainly for our family to come. So Mom made it possible for this day.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Mama's boy, Donald Dew. Chicago's boy, Donald Dew. The global boy, Donald Dew. More
Thank
power
you.
to you, sir.
Thank you,
in
sir.
the days to come.
Thank you so much, sir.
Well, we have the dynamic Donald Dew, the CEO of Habilitative Systems Inc., and he takes pride in what he does. And he is showing us how well we are in an apartment maintained by a senior in Enola Dew Senior Complex of HSI. And he said that we must stop in and see the beautiful way the seniors maintain this sparklingly clean, well articulated and arranged apartment of a senior citizen. I think he takes after you, Donald Dew, sir. I mean, your penchant for cleanliness, sanitation, hygiene, positiveness is echoing and reflected with all your residents and all what you do.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vijay. We love showcasing this apartment because this particular resident, his nickname is Shorty. He's got the real Chicago tradition. He's a blues band manager, and he's done several fundraising events for Congressman Danny Davis, and you know, he welcomes us in all the time. But you can see from the beautiful paintings that he has framed on his walls to the meticulous restoration of the coffee table. He actually had that sanded and completed that himself.
Wow,
you know, just a beautiful refinishing of this antique that he did to the placement of all the furnishings and the meticulous way that he maintains his apartment. It's always in this condition. I can come here day or night and knock on the door, and he welcomes us in and shows off the apartment. But it's
And
beautiful.
what I like best is we have Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., Bill Clinton, Obama, John F. Kennedy, Harold Washington,
Yes.
all looking over us.
Yes.
Thank you
Yes.
so much. It's a masterpiece. And Shadi, wherever you are, salute to you, sir.
Absolutely.
Medstar Laboratory is one of the oldest and largest independent clinical laboratories in the state of Illinois. Medstar Laboratory is a minority-owned corporation that provides state-of-the-art clinical laboratory service since 1974. We currently service over 800 medical facilities, including hospitals, nursing homes, assisted living facilities.
Medstar's Toxicology Division, Soft Landing Labs, is a leader in drug testing and specializes in servicing behavioral health centers. We pride ourselves in diversity, where 33% of the lab is owned by a minority woman and 80% of the workforce is women. Medstar Laboratory is known for its accuracy, proficiency, customer service, and dependable delivery of quality services by qualified professionals.
We provide personalized service around the clock 24 hours a day with professionalism at its best. Thanks to you, we are growing and offering a comprehensive range of diagnostic testing. Medstar, your partner for progress and longevity.